I loved Andor and its coverage of political themes, and while The Bad Batch may not be as overtly political as Andor was, I think the 2 episodes of the premiere actually paralleled some of the messages in Andor, but slightly more cartoonily. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, this isn't necessarily some specific connection between the two, but I think it comes from a broader trend in how Star Wars structures its stories and political commentary, as well as being a reflection of how culture more broadly has evolved and how it looks at political themes or what's important in media. I assume that's what happened. At least I'm contractually obligated to watch and read only Star Wars content, so I really have no idea what's going on anywhere else. Specifically, we'll be talking about how both Bad Batch and Andor focus on individuals and mutual aid, along with explicit criticisms of colonialism and exploitation from every angle. Obviously, neither show invented this, but when it was such a big element of Andor, it stuck out to me a lot more coming into the first 2 episodes of Bad Batch. In Andor, while we're ostensibly seeing a show about the formation of the rebellion, outside of Mon Mothma and Luthen Rael's stories, the focus is less on the broader political scale and more on how the oppression of the Empire impacts individuals, to a greater degree than even Star Wars Rebels did. In Star Wars, for things to matter, they often have to connect back to some level of galactic leadership, like how we see the main characters in Star Wars Rebels become increasingly important within the growing rebellion as a whole. We obviously know Cassian ends up in a somewhat prominent position himself, but Andor highlights how the riot on Ferrix and even the raid on Aldhani have validity on their own. These effects are local, even if they're a case study for something bigger going on in multiple places. We repeatedly hear about but never see the unrest and conflict at Gorman as well, for example. While the Bad Batch seems to be setting up for bigger galactic importance for the protagonists themselves potentially, given Echo's argument to Hunter that they ought to be doing more, I think it's actually possible that the themes of the Bad Batch line up better with them staying out of the leadership spotlight and taking Echo's hope to do more to mean helping people at the more local level, whether it's individuals or smaller communities. Most relevantly though, in their raid on Sereno, the Bad Batch are attempting to recover Count Dooku's war chest, arriving at the planet to find it in the process of being devastated by the Empire. Here we see one obvious impact of the Empire on locals in that they're killing basically everyone, but the Bad Batch, and even in Tales of the Jedi before it, they've been just as interested in exploring the issues under the CIS and Republic. In fact, the Empire's pilfering and outright destruction of the world almost takes a backseat to the discussion of its prior exploitation. Omega hadn't really considered where the treasure they were stealing would have come from, and through her conversations with Tech and a local survivor named Romar Adel, she comes to learn that it came not just from the exploitation of other worlds that were enemies to the CIS by Dooku, but also from Sereno itself, which Omega hadn't really considered. The war wasn't just CIS versus Republic. The interests of the CIS leaders were very different from the interests of its citizens. What the Bad Batch has yet to reckon with is the same issues existing within the Republic, and I mean the Bad Batch here in terms of the characters, not the show itself. Something that kind of shows up pretty regularly with them is that while they may not have their chips, they're still in many ways brainwashed by the Republic. The Empire didn't happen overnight. The bad things and bad actors that exist within the Empire still did exist in many ways within the Republic. And in this episode in particular, we see Tech interact with someone who, prior to their encounter, would have just been thought of as a separatist and therefore an enemy or a bad guy, rather than seeing the real truth. He and Adele were both people who were just being used or exploited by other people who in no way had their own interests in mind. Adele living on a separatist world doesn't necessarily mean that he sympathized with the CIS leadership, and someone having been affiliated with the Republic doesn't necessarily mean they're actually a good guy. Really, Tech may not have a conception of what it means to have his own interests, or what the kind of solidarity we see on Ferrix looks like, but it's something they've begun to develop with some of the episodic characters of the day throughout Season 1, and now with Adele in Season 2. I really hope this type of encounter with former separatists is something we see more of on the show, as the characters evolve and explore what they want to do in the galaxy. I was actually especially happy to see Tech and Echo get a bit more individual focus so far, which I felt was lacking in the first season, though definitely Tech got a bit more than Echo in these episodes. That's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also let me know how you felt about the first 2 episodes of the season. Aside from our coverage on TapCaf transmissions every Thursday, which we're not doing this week, but we're going to be doing next week, I won't be trying to do any direct episodic reviews, but I will be doing a few videos like this with some of my thoughts as the season progresses. I kind of regret not doing some of these longer videos for Andor when it was happening, even though I did do a bunch of them over on my shorter form lore channel. So hope you're looking forward to that as well, and hope to see you next time.